Hello everyone and welcome. Yes, my name is Arrowfire. Welcome back to another ranking video. We haven't done one of these for a little while. It's one I wanted to get back on. I'm sure a few people are going to have a few opinions on this one. Anyway, we are going to talk around combiners. Combiners are always fun to talk about, and as such, not doing a top 5, not doing a best of this or a tournament. I am going to do a ranking of Transformer combiners. Now, this is a pre-existing list that I found on Tiermaker, which I've used before. I did think about just limiting it to G1, and then I thought, well, there's a couple outside of G1 that are being worth including. But there's also a few on here that I just don't consider combiners. There's actually a couple of them here I don't even recognise. So there's going to be some I'm just outright not going to consider. I mean, there's the likes of, he's not on here, but Reflector's considered a combiner. I'm just not going to include that. You'll know what I mean when it comes to a typical Transformers combiner. Anyway, pre-existing list, I haven't added any more and I can't remove any that are already on here. And we'll start off with the first one on the list, Big Green Devastator, G1 Devastator. Many ways the OG combiner, he is the one that kind of started it all and very much different from Scramble City, a class of his own, and when toys come out he's always bigger. So again, pre-existing list, we got S plus and S ranking, then we start going into A, B and C. I'm going to put him in at least A, maybe S. I'll go with A. It's not that I don't like Devastator, he's always fun to talk about and he always is a threat, but at the same time he is very much the go-to combiner when you look at comics. He's perceived to be the ultimate threat, and when it comes to other combiners, they have to be shown to be at least as strong as Devastator. He's always perceived to be. He's not quite Scramble City, he's that little bit more, so I do like him, but at the same time, he's very much the first one you hear when a combiner is introduced. Good start. I have absolutely no idea what this next one is. If you can see the images as well as I can, I mean, they're very small. I have absolutely no idea what that is. It almost looks Insecticon-like looking at the chest. People are probably going to be sounding off, and I'll have to find somewhere to put it in a retrospective one. For now, I'm just going to put it under not considered, because I generally don't know what that is. I mean, the feet almost looks like Onslaught, but I don't know. That's really bothering me. The more I look at it, the more I think Insecticon. I'm not aware of an Insecticon combiner. Another pinkish one, though, with Abominus. A character that I feel gets slept on a lot, was introduced very late in G1, and Decepticons always had the upper hand when it came to combiners, so I feel it's one worth considering. As such, I think he's going to get a little bit of love. I'm going to put him under B tier. He just came in a little bit late to be so impactful and only got a handful of episodes, or did get some episodes in G1, but was very much kind of overshadowed with other combiners in general. It's starting to get quite saturated at this point, but I like the fact it was considered Abominus, Terracons. They were quite feral in their own right. Here we go, Combiner Wars stuff. This is the Starscream combiner, which I'm trying to remember who he combined with. I did start to zone out during this point of Combiner Wars when anything became a combiner. It really lost the magic for me. Starscream didn't need to be a combiner, you know, that's why he had Bruticus. So sorry Starscream, I like you as a character, but you're not a combiner for me. E tier for you. No, it doesn't get better, does it? Skyrain, straight away, E tier. A right hodgepodge of anyone. And we got like Skids, Cosmos. I mean, Skyrain, Skylynx. You know, fine. And using the Lynx itself rather than the bird dragon. Yeah, I don't mind it. But wasn't it that Skylynx was always the equal, effectively, of Predaking? That's how it was perceived. So he didn't need to be a combiner. Again, it was getting to the point where anything could be a combiner. It started to be a little bit cheapened. Here we go, when I say things that shouldn't be on this list. Overlord. Alright, look, I know Bits combine and he has like Breast Force, Power Masters, whatever. No, not for me. Not a combiner. Not worthy on this list. Sorry, mate, I like you as a character, but you're not a combiner. Down as not considered. Tripredacus, Beast Wars. I like the look of it, but again, as I've said before, it's an era of Beast Wars that I didn't quite go in for, and I kind of know more about Tripredacus through the toys, but I do like the fact it's like a 3-bot combiner. It felt a bit different. Combiners in Beast Wars, there was an option to use them, and it wasn't really explored in a cartoon or that kind of side of the media, but no problem with it. I like the fact that the Maximals and Predacons had one each, and it just kind of felt he didn't get overly saturated like G1. Maybe that was the case when G1 and G2 finished, that they wanted to dumb down a little bit on the combiners. C tier for me, not terrible, not the best, but perfectly fine. Going into C-cons, now this is going to upset a lot of people. I'm just not that big a fan of them. Like, I know a lot of people are, and that's okay. I like the fact they kind of had interchangeable pieces and we're back to 6-spot combiners. And they look cool enough with Piranacon, you know, the green use, very 6-shot in its colour schemes. Again, it came at a point where combiners started to just feel very present. We had a few introduced for the Autobots. I just kind of waned, and again, it was in the Japanese era, which just wasn't my era of Transformers. Again, nothing against it, and does feel a little underrepresented when it comes to toys and media. I'm going to put it in D tier. Sorry for people who really do like the character. I know I'm probably in a minority on it. It's just never been my favourite, never one I've warmed to, even if it does look a cool design. And I think it was also a sense that they were very much C-cons first, Decepticons second, as you can say for a lot of combiner teams. Going to show a gap in my knowledge here. This is Transformers Animated, isn't it? I think. Don't think it's Cyberverse. I don't know what this is, because it's not really what I focused on. So, sorry, it might look like I haven't done my homework, but I don't want to give you a bad answer. I don't know enough about it to rank it truly, and I'm not going to make something up that I don't know, so I'm just going to go straight into not considered. Again, if it's animated, it's just not my bag. I really had to remind myself of this one. This is Predicus from, was it a BotCon, Power of the Primes? It was really taken from Beast Wars Uprising. I mean, it is a combiner and it is from a form of media. If I remember rightly, wasn't Tarantulas involved? I'm very sketchy on this one. I had to look at the colours. I thought it was Victorian at first. It's a bit loosey-goosey for my mind. It's just, it is a combiner in a very reduced form of media. It is a Beast Wars combiner that takes on Predaking. Don't know nearly enough about it. I will put it into E-class. I can't say I won't consider it, but I know so little about it as an actual combiner. It's in a very reduced form of media. I really had to check what this next one was. The image was doing me no favours. I think this is Ruination, just because looking at it looks like, is it Rotorstorm and Twin Twist at the bottom? And maybe the body of Impactor, now I see it. I really had to check on it. Ruination. Great name for a combiner. I'm not the biggest Wreckers fan you ever find. I'm going to put it under D tier because I like the fact that the Wreckers became a combiner. I'm happy with that it is a, something plausible, something that I think they could be and wreck all the more. But again, didn't know enough of the character, and I was not that big a fan of the Wreckers personally. Again, this is just my list. Next, moving on to RID with Landfill. Was this a 4-bot set? A 4-bot combiner team? I'm trying to remember. I didn't mind this, but it was one of the rare occasions where I actually thought the individual members were better than how the end combiner actually looked, but I quite liked it enough, and I was ready to get back into combiners again by the time RID came around. So I'm going to put Landfill down as a C. It was just effectively an Autobot Devastator, which is fine, but yeah, I'm quite happy with it nevertheless. It has a mild appreciation for it. Next, going on to the current HasLab project, which is Leo Kaiser. I'm never been that interested in it, to be perfectly honest. Again, no emotional connection to the character. 6-bot set. I do like, again, how the HasLab set is shaping up, but again, going into a part of Transformers that I just didn't follow. But I like kind of the hatch patch of colours there, the hodgepodge going on of greens and purples and reds. It's cool enough. So I am going to put this down at C. I think people will like the character more enough to want to put it higher. But as I say, just no emotional connection. Magnaboss. Now, again, not really my era of Beast Wars, but I love the fact that it looked really like a warrior, like a tribalistic combiner. And also the animals used, a lion, an elephant, and a eagle, really kind of made sense to be like top tier animals to make a very scary looking combiner. I wish we see more of it in modern media. One I really do like. I know it's Beast Wars, and again, an era of Beast Wars I'm not too au fait with, but a combiner of the original toy that I've looked to pick up many, many times. So that's going straight into B tier for me. I do like the character. I wish we get to see more of it. Back to Combiner Wars with Megatronia. I feel like a lot of this part of Combiner Wars, anything could be a combiner. I mean, going down a female combiner route, I wasn't totally against it, but it just got to a point where it just got so heavily saturated. So, again, not particularly for me. I will put this under E category, I think. Again, it's just throwing out anything to be a combiner by this point. Menasor, back to the originals. So Menasor was, again, I prefer the individual members. He is a combiner that I've cared least about, but he is one of the originals and one of the greatest introduction in the Key to Vector Sigma cartoon. So I do really like him. I kind of put him with Devastator in that sense, and that's where I'm going to rank him under A tier. He is impressive, but he's not my favourite, and I don't buy into the fact of he's the smallest of all the combiners. I mean, I like to think of all the combiners as the same size. But I like the fact that he was introduced to give the Decepticons some road presence, because really they're just all jets, and they're all military jets, fighter jets. So the fact that they had their own road muscle, particularly for how he was introduced in the G1 cartoon, is really, really cool. Yeah, he'll go under A tier for me. Some people will like him more than that. Again, I've got ones I like a little bit more still. Moving on next to Monstructor. Now, I really like how IDW brought in Monstructor and the fact that they were all driven mad and kind of sacrificed the minds of all 5 of the bots. I do really like the combiner being introduced just completely crazed. This is what I think combiners are. The fact that some can coexist or just about functioning or so fragile they could go at any minute. Monstructor just went. He was completely a menace to the point that no one could really control him. And if you're going to be that twisted and that evil, as we see some of the characters on this list, I think, yeah, that's going to be one to say, yeah, you could easily lose your mind and just be a completely feral beast. Really like how it was introduced. It's going to go under A tier for me. Again, one that's quite underrepresented for toys and things like that. I'd love to see a combining set in the third party or official for what a Monstructor combiner could really go for. Again, trying to work it out from the image, I think this is combined up. Oh, Super Prime from, was it Armada, when he was all combined up with his trailer, his 4-bits? Well, it wasn't Armada, was it? It was Energon. Again, I'm not considering that a combiner. If that is what I'm looking at, I mean, my eyesight's maybe not that good, but I'm looking at the legs. It kind of looks like all of his 4 compartments on his shoulders, on his legs. Look, sorry, not a combiner Optimus, just not for me. So down and a not considered. But one that is considered, 2001's Midnight Express, or is it Rail Racer? This is where I forget the names and I start coming. I'm sure it's Rail Racer for the combining team. I like that it was 3 brothers, and brotherhood in Transformers has always been a bit sketchy, but I liked it. Bullet trains, they looked a little different, certainly to Western audiences, and a 3-bot combiner that was adapted to the Western audience. I know we had 3-bot combiner for Beast Wars, really like it. And I had the toy briefly, then I sold it on. Kind of regret doing that. My only thought was, again, we just haven't seen the reintroduction of it, and you could argue it's hard to reintroduce a very Japanese-centric combiner. It's hard to bring it into a type of fandom. I think one of the train bots was being brought into a IDW towards the end, but I like it nevertheless. It goes under B tier for me. I did enjoy collecting the toys of it. Omega Prime, sorry, not a combiner. I know it's Power Link, it's not a combiner. Not how I'm classing combiner. I like the character, like the design, and it's going to look good for HasLab, but no, not a combiner. Really stretching my Japan knowledge now. Is that 6 Turbo? I know next to nothing about this. Really showing my weakness of it. It looks cool. It's great, vibrant colours. Really how Transformers was carrying on in Japan and not so much in the Western world. I just know so little about it. I really don't. So, I mean, it looks cool enough. I'll put it under D tier. Sorry, I don't know any more about it than that. It does look cool, and I'm sure we'll see these guys around again, but I don't know enough about it. Really had to Google this one. Monstrous. A Beast Wars Uprising / IDW / Predacon / GoBot toys. I again know very little, if anything, about it, other than what the wiki tells me. But if it's GoBots, if it is taken from GoBot derivative, even if it's been adapted into Beast Wars Uprising, sorry, not considered. I'm not going to have a GoBot on this list, that's for sure. Next image looks a bit like Star Saber. Not a combiner, sorry. Even if you are all super combined, if I'm not taking Omega Prime, I'm not taking you either, mate. Have we got Abominus again? That is... Have I counted Abominus twice? That's certainly under B tier. That's got to be Abominus. It does look like Abominus. So I've got Abominus twice. I'm just looking at the limbs. I guess that's Swindler Twin. Has to be. I can't think of anything else with that V chest plate. There's hunger and the thighs. I'm going to work to the assumption that that is Abominus twice, in which case I'm going to put him side by side. But I'm trying to think, if that's not Abominus, what would it be? Oh, I should have just created this list myself. Moving on to our regular programming. Predaking. No messing about. S+ tier. Does suffer a little bit like Abominus in being introduced quite late. And I feel if he was introduced at the start of 5 Faces of Darkness, it would have been all the more memorable. Think about the time of Triptychon and Metroplex when they were introduced start of Season 3. If Predaking was introduced at the same time, all the power to it. And it's a shame that it didn't get a feature in the Rebirth. Not really many characters did, to be honest, but it would have been quite cool to see the continuation of the use of a very good combiner. And as you know, big Predacon fan. So yeah, S+ tier, just awesome. Still is awesome to this day. Again, I don't buy the fact that he's the largest combiner, just like I don't buy the fact that Menasor is the smallest. They're all the same height to me. He's an utter warrior. Omega Supreme, sorry mate, I do think your combiner size, I think you went toe to toe with, you know, Devastator and fighting alongside Superion. I'm fine with that, but no, you're going to be under not considered. I'm really not sure what this next one is. I think it's a mixture of Galvatron for the chest, Astra Train and Blitzwing for feet, and is that even Mind Wipe? Looking at the other options left, is this supposed to be Galvatronus? I don't know. It looks horrible, whatever it is. I'm not sure what the green one is. Is that Acid Storm? Right, who's who of combiners? And it doesn't have to be Galvatron, but it's purple. It's what I'm going with. I will put that down as E simply because that looks ugly. Volcanicus, and I actually think we've got Volcanicus technically twice on here. Right, said this before, I'll say it again. The Dinobots don't need to combine. They are strong enough on their own, and I kind of like that they don't combine. Saying that, I do like that if there is to be a Volcanicus, it's kind of Predaking's equal. I never bought into Skylynx being a match for Predaking. Like, I'm happy with Skylynx being very large and maybe could go, not toe-to-toe, but certainly be a threat. But Skylynx is the size of a Jetfire, a broadside, larger than your standard bot. But combiners are combiners. So 5 feral beasts in the Predacons, hunting packs, and then 5 metallic dinosaurs. That's a good pairing. I do like it. But again, as I say, I don't think they need to combine. And I actually just feel the design for Volcanicus just looks like Grimlock with limbs. If I've said this before, there's that mock-up from a while ago now that someone did something called Extinction, and it largely looked like sludge, but they had elements just kind of hanging off, and that looked more like a Dinobot combiner than this does. Not been a fan. Don't think the toys were great either. So that's going down D tier for me. It's very low ranking, this list. I'm guessing Superion. I can't see the head. There has to be Superion. One of my favourites. Always one of my favourites. Do I want to put him in S tier or S+ tier? I'm going to be kind and put him in S+ tier. He's never considered to be the strongest. Quite the weakest, really. He takes a lot of damage. But I've always liked him. I always liked how he looked with his head sculpt. I like the colours of him. I like the individual bots. He's one that I have a lot of soft spots for toys, for liking him back in the day, and again, how he was introduced in Key to Vector Sigma. So really do like it. Yeah, I'll put him under S+ tier. He is, again, one of my favourites. Bruticus, arguably the strongest combiner. I think he certainly is a bit of a force. And again, I do really like how he's introduced. The only thing is, there's this kind of constant back and forth with him as to whether he's blue or grey, or Onslaught's blue, and that makes up his body. So it can leave for a bit of difficulty with toys, but I do like it. Like how he is completely a war machine because he's too stupid to think of anything else. So he goes under S tier for me. Always cool to see him, particularly how he's been introduced as well in the Skybound comics. Raiden next, Trainbots. I have no affiliation for him. I like the build, and I like the use of trains. Yeah, it's fine. 6 bot set. Probably didn't need to be. Again, I don't have a connection to it, but it's fine enough. But it was getting to the point where combiners were starting to become very common, and the Autobots were always felt lacking on them. So for me, I'm going to put him down at C tier. He looks fine enough, but that's about as much as I think he's really worth it. Defensor. Arguably a boring combiner, but I always like the individual bots. I like how they shape up, and again, he's a good combiner that the Autobots did need, but he was very placid by his very nature. For me, I'm going to put him under A tier. I like when he's been introduced. He's just always considered a bit like Trailbreaker. Throw up a force field and everything will be okay. I think that's Landcross. Again, testing my knowledge of Japanese combiners, know next to nothing about it, to be fair. Looks cool enough, looks better than some others on the list, but again, I know very little about it, so it's going under D. Victorion. A horrible colour scheme. Really don't like it. Yeah, it was introduced, and also just Pyromagna in IDW Comics just had a rod up her ass the entire time. Really hard work, and just when the toys came out and it was just a heavy retool of Superion, I just felt it was lazy, didn't feel it was necessary. Plus, watching the Combiner Wars Mishima series, they just stayed in their combined form the entire time, and they just stopped being individual bots. Not my favourite. I'm going to put that in E tier, and I actually do mean it for E tier. It sounds like I really hate on Combiner Wars, doesn't it? Computron. A bit like Defensor, a bit boring. But looks cool and really sought after for a toy. We could do with one in a masterpiece market. I think how it was introduced with Grimlock's new brain was a good way of doing so. It was just a real sense of using your mind versus brutish force fighting Abominus, which was fine. Again, we just didn't see enough of it. It was introduced so late, and it's one that I wish we could see a little more of, but I like it enough. I'm going to put it under A tier. I'm struggling to see this image, but I'm guessing Magmatron. It's really hard to tell, actually. If it is, I'm going to work to the assumption it's Magmatron. Looks really cool. Really good introduction of a new combiner with the Predacon side of it. Looked probably what Tripredacus should have looked like as a counter to Magma Boss. I thought it was quite good. Again, I really hope it is. I can't really tell from here, but I'm going to work on the assumption it is. And if it is, it goes under B tier. Do like it. I should really pick up the toy for it, even if it, again, is something I don't have an emotional connection for. Optimus Maximus, wasn't it? White Prime plus combiner limbs. Same story as Galvatronus. Didn't need to be a combiner. Optimus didn't need to be a combiner. You know, neither did Galvatron. Starscream had no business being a combiner. So, yeah, okay, it was a use of White Prime, but the fact it was just a hodgepodge of anyone. The only thing I did like about it was, wasn't it around the time Prowl combined? And he had a serious falling out with Prowl going behind his back. So that was cool, how they had to sort of coexist. But no, sorry, Prime. You don't need to be a combiner, mate. All right, next one I think is Elita Combiner. Again, Combiner Wars. Elita Infinite, wasn't it? Infinite with a 1 in it. Again, didn't need to be a combiner. Anyone was a combiner by this point. Sorry, you're going straight under E as well. Beauty around combiners is the fewer the better. The less there are, the more there is. And it just becomes more of a telling point. But if you're going to start throwing everyone to be a combiner, then what's the point of not being a combiner? Anyone else looks weak by comparison. Straight up, I have no idea what this is. It looks like a dragon from Game of Thrones. It's CGI. It's quickly scouring through the films in my mind. Other than one that's coming up, I can't think of another combiner. It does look like a dragon. What am I thinking? Don't know. So it's going under not considered. I'm sure people will tell me what it is in the comments, but it just looks like Game of Thrones. I'm watching Game of Thrones at the moment again, so maybe that's why I'm thinking that's what it is. Okay, we're back on Volcanicus, sort of. It's just called the Beast. I will say this is widely renowned as one of the worst Transformer combiners, probably Transformer introductions that's ever happened. I will say, though, if you're going to have a Dinobot combiner, this is what it will be. It would be a mess. Volcanicus is far too clean, far too pretty. But if the 5 Dinobots who can't string together a sentence, think of Sludge for example, they can't do that on their own. How are they going to do it with the 5 of them in one mind? They can't see the difference between Decepticons and Autobots. They're just going to fight anything that's not them. So that's the only thing I say in its favour. Whilst it was badly introduced, if the Dinobots were to combine, it would be just completely unstable on a part of Monstructor or worse. That's the only thing I'll say about it. I will put it under D tier because it wasn't a great design, but it does have some merit in that that's what a Dinobot combiner would be like, and that is why they don't combine. And finishing off with Revenge of the Fallen, wasn't it? Second film, Bayverse, Devastator. Apart from a terrible introduction of a use of the enemy scrotum, it was an interesting look. It wasn't called Devastator, it was called Constructicon, wasn't it? But the fans just basically rejected that and say, oh, construction vehicles is Devastator. And apart from being about a 10 bot combiner set, and it was just a case of whatever was lying around, it did look menacing. And it's one that I would have liked to see maybe a little more of, and it has enjoyed a little bit of cult status since. So, okay, look, my knowledge, that is the only combiner that's been introduced in the live action films. It looked quite cool when it was sucking up all the sand and how it was scaling the pyramids. I like it. I like how it was introduced. It had a bit of a look. Was it Devastator? No. Could have been Devastator, but at least it looked a threat. It looked menacing. It looked cool. For that, I'm half tempted to put it under S tier. Maybe I'll go A tier, because I can't put that above the likes of Defensor or Menacor or even original Devastator. Can you imagine the comments? There we go. It is a hodgepodge list. There's a lot on here that I had to say, look, I just don't know. There's a part of the Japanese continuity, but at the same time, I didn't want to throw in a half-baked list. There's a lot on there. If you just focus the G1 combiners, there's a lot leaving on the table. I'm sure my ranking is going to be disputed with some people, and hey, that's fine. Leave a note in your own comments below, and if you want, go and make up your own tier list and share it on social media. That's the beauty about these. Everyone has their own preferences. It is very bottom heavy. As I say, there's some on this list that I just don't consider as combiners. But anyway, thanks for watching, and as always, I will see you on the next one.